You'll be impressed by the fast and friendly response from the U&I skilled staff. You can also go to the Contact Us page and request a part. U&I hours of operation are Monday through Friday, 8 till 5, and Saturday, 8 till 3. U&I Auto Truck Parts and Wrecking is located at 1435 West Rialto Avenue in San Bernardino. Check out the U&I webpage at the letter U, the letter I, autoparts.com, or call 909-888-6841. 909-888-6841.
For more local radio every day, listen to KCAA.
Hey! What the? Honey! The water just stopped in here.
They turned it off because you're wasting water.
What? What are you talking about?
You know.
Because you know it's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, no water. It's all about that drought, drought. Yeah, it's pretty clear, we're really short on blue. It's time to save it, like we're supposed to do. Some say it's doom, gloom, and all our grass must go. But together we can make it and enjoy our golden state. It's all about that drought, no water.
Well, good afternoon, and welcome to the Water Zone on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. I'm Rob Starr, along with, and no long introduction because he doesn't need one, Mr. Mike Barron.
Well, hey, Rob. Appreciate that very much, and great to be here.
I actually didn't have time to do the normal, hail everything to you and give you all the kudos and stuff. It's been a...
you spoil me, so... But tonight, I'm excited because, we just came back from a real interesting event at the Skirball Cultural Center.
Is this news?
This is news.
So we'll go to the news music.
Oh, okay. That's right. I always forget.
From all across the world on KCAA 1050 AM, the local news brought to you by Mike Barrett and Rob Starr and the Toro Company. I have to get that in.
Hey, that's good. They are the sponsors.
So tell everybody what we did last night.
Well, the Skirball Cultural Center was the site of a Independence Day celebration. Can you guess what country?
Israel.
That's right. It started in the evening, and it's the 68th anniversary. And we were listening to some mentions of the number of agreements that cities and the actual state of California has signed with Israel to share technologies specifically around water. And Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, and the state of California,
San Diego, a bunch of different cities.
Yeah, so that was quite significant, and it was really the first time that I'd ever been aware of the level of magnitude in which there is this cooperation going on between Israel and either cities or the actual state of California. So I don't know, maybe they're going to help us work through the drought, right?
Well, they got some great technology they've put together. I know they're really pushing to work not only with California but other states as well. And it's a big deal. They had a lot of interesting people there. They had Mayor Garcetti, Mr. Galprin, who's the city controller, all of the city council. They had a couple mayors from, actually the ex-mayor on the city council, Dr. Julian Gold from Beverly Hills, and I forget the lady's name from West Hollywood.
Yes, but she is the mayor of West Hollywood,
right.
And so it was very interesting in the sense that water was part of the topic. And speaking of water, Metropolitan Water District, the largest water wholesaler in the state of California, in fact, in the United States, just this week lifted all of its allocations and penalties for overuse of Metropolitan Water District money, or I should say of their water, which certainly indicates that maybe the drought's over. But what do you think? You think the drought is over?
No, according to this news release, says Governor Brown issues order to continue water savings as drought persists. So he did an executive order the other day on Monday, and even though they think it's been sort of replenished, not totally, but they still want to have that word out to use water more efficiently. I like that word better.
Yeah, and really the effort is multifaceted. It's kind of multidimensional in the sense that they're increasing the amount of recycled water, investing in water treatment plants that will actually allow our sewage water to be purified to the extent that it can be reintroduced into our ground water basins.
Right. A lot of water agencies throughout California are starting to think about it and we have talked to in the past Metropolitan Water, Orange County, who has a reclamation, and we have an interview later in a few minutes with a gentleman, Girish Balachandra, who's the general manager of Riverside Public Utilities, who also has he's been there 2 years, and guy is fantastic. I mean, what he brings to the water, actually the public utilities, is amazing, and we're going to hear from him in a few minutes. So
that'll be good to hear. And the ironic thing though is the federal Central Valley project, which is key to bringing water to the farmers in the San Joaquin Valley as well as the Central Valley, has only allocated 5% of what those farmers have requested. But those farmers that are at the Sacramento Delta area or north, what kind of percent allocation do you think they got?
Lots.
100% of what they wanted.
I told you they need these trucks to go by Shasta and Oroville, and when they dump those millions of acre feet of water, collect it and bring it to the farms that need it.
Well, the sad thing is that, as you know, I think there's 3 reservoirs / lakes up in Northern California that have benefited tremendously from the above average precipitation in Northern California: Oroville, Shasta, and Folsom.
Right.
And they have all gotten to the point where the water is being discharged to make sure that there is room for that snow melt.
Right.
Yeah, more water. And that water right now is just flowing out underneath the Golden Gate Bridge, thousands and thousands of acre feet. In other words, enough water is being not pumped to Southern California, could have filled all of the reservoirs in Southern California. But because the federal court system does not allow the pumps to pump that water during this time frame, during the time when there is the benefit of the rainfall and the winter snows, because, again, they're trying to protect the fish. In fact, last week we had Pat Mulroy mention that in spite of 5 years of continued reduction in pumping, there doesn't seem to be any benefit resulting to the endangered species. So perhaps there's something else going on.
Right.
So it's just a shame to see all that water being diverted and not being brought down. Because, you're right. It'd be nice to have a pipeline, right, that comes straight down. Well, guess what? We have a pipeline, but it has to be pumped. The water has to be pumped. And so...
Well, I got a 10 spot I'll put in if you want to start a business. We go up there and collect the water and sell it.
Well, if we ever get to those hydrogen cell cars, or trucks, where they can...
They do have them. Toyota's coming out with one.
So... And Toyota happens to be a sponsor of
the Wyland Foundation,
which also...
So is Toro.
That's right.
And I think this afternoon that's where I was. I was with the world-renowned marine artist, Wyland. And the guy's got a great heart. That's what I can tell you. We went to Children's Hospital of Orange County today. And I brought Dan Winterton, who's the director of marketing for the Toro Company. He was there as well. And Wyland went in and gave an art lesson to the kids that have cancer. And I got to tell you, I stood in the back of the room. Yeah, I got some pictures, but if someone took one of me, I was sitting there with tears coming down.
Wow.
To watch the kids and their families in there, and they were anywhere from 2.5 to a teenager to maybe 17 years old, and their families there because they get to stay there. It's an incredible place to see. I mean, Dan put it correctly. He says, with all the problems you see and hear every day about the world with water and everything else, step in that room for 5 minutes with those kids and those families, and your whole vision changes and what's going on. And one of the most touching parts of it, I mean, there was little girls and boys and everything else. But one little guy got up, and I guess he was probably about 9 or 10, I guess. He was up painting with Wyland. And Wyland had this big canvas, and what's really nice, once he finishes with this, they're going to auction it off for the hospital, so they get the money. But each little kid had their own little easel and painting equipment that Wyland brought in, and Toro was kind. They brought in some little notebooks and writing instruments, so the kids have to take notes and drawing
nice.
things and things. So that was nice. But what was touching is after the one kid who was up there with Wyland painting, Wyland took his paintbrush and autographed it for him and gave it to him. The kid was so happy. He had a little little rubber wristband, and I forget his first name, but they called it Team something, whatever his first name was. The kid took the band off and gave it to Wyland as a thank you. I mean, it was just the most warming thing you've ever seen.
You can't script those.
No, and Wyland's real big on water, and that's why Toro's partnered up with him, and it's a great thing that he's doing. So we appreciate that. Anyway, for our listeners, if they do want, just let me tell them to call in so they can talk to either you or me, or mostly you. Only kidding. 909-888-5222 if you're in the 909 area code. If you're anywhere outside, please call 888-909-1050. And this morning. Or do you have some more news?
No, go ahead.
This morning you and I had the pleasure of going over to Riverside Public Utilities and meeting this gentleman that I mentioned, Girish Balachandra, who is just, to me, one of the most, when I say the word progressive, I don't mean from the wrong part of that.
He's a great communicator.
Yes.
He doesn't seem to be pushing his own personal agenda.
No.
He has a way of presenting information that allows
other
people to come to a conclusion that drives a consensus. And I think that's a skill I wish more politicians had.
Absolutely. I'd vote for him in a minute.
Yeah, but he just gives you, in talking to him, a confidence that, one, he's knowledgeable.
Yep.
He's thought about the various alternatives and options and proposes, I think, a very doable process to get to where he wants to get to.
Yeah, he had a great story which we'll get into, and I got to tell you, I'm very pleased and amazed at Riverside Public Utilities for the communications that they do, for their programs that they run, and I think today for the listeners who get water from them, I think, and utilities, I think you'll see they think differently. This is a gentleman who listens, who understood, found out what was going on, worked with a team. And anyway, it was a pretty good conversation. So let's get to that. I'd like to welcome to the Waqter Zone the General Manager of Riverside Public Utilities, Girish Balachandra.
Hi, nice to see you, Rob.
Good to see you too. Appreciate you taking the time to visit with us and let our audience know about what's going on with water here in Riverside.
Can you tell us a little bit, for our listening audience, a little bit more about Riverside Public Utilities and where it covers, the territories, and some of the things that it does?
Sure. So Riverside Public Utilities, RPU, is owned by the City of Riverside. We are a public power utility, which means we are owned by the city. We are the 29th largest municipal electric utility in the country. On the water side, we are a rather large utility, and I'm sure we'll get to more details on the water side also. We have about 600 employees. Our budget is close to $500 million a year, and we are a huge driver of economic development in the city. We are an award-winning utility, right from reliability of our utility systems, right down to our communications and marketing. We excel in pretty much all areas of our business.
Great. So you heard about the drought. What had happened in Riverside during the drought, and what have you guys done to take care of that?
You know, I'm actually going to go back several years before the drought, because our city council and RPU employees, our staff, really planned for the future. We built what we call a resilient system. It's a system that's resilient to drought. So since 2008, we actually haven't taken any water from the state water system, because we built the John W. North treatment plant, which allowed us to tap more in our groundwater basin. So we actually were completely resilient. We had enough water to serve us for another 10 years at least, even if the drought continued.
Wow, I'm thinking First, just the forethought and planning and recognizing that the goal of resiliency was important to invest in. I think that's something that as consumers, we really don't even pay attention too much. We see our water bill and we turn on our tap and, we're happy. So, I think it's, we've learned, Rob and I, that during the drought there's been a lot of pre-planning, a lot of investment, a lot of good decisions. But with 10 years of supply at your disposal, how did that interplay with the goal that the state of California imposed upon RPU to reduce the per capita consumption of water so significantly? Because it's a pretty high number of 28%, I believe.
It's a great question, and it's a really difficult situation because we had enough water. We want to be good citizens. We are good citizens. We petitioned the state board to incorporate our supply, our resilient supply, in their regulations. Because we didn't think, given that we had spent more than $100 million to build this resilient system, we should be subject to the same kind of reduction that a utility that did not invest in their supply would be subject to.
Well, in fact, it seems to me that the structure of the target reductions almost rewarded those utilities that had not planned and invest. I mean, is that?
You are exactly right, and that's what we told the state board. I can empathize with them that they did not have much time. They only had 30 days to develop the draft regulations. However, they developed those regulations in a way that gave zero credit to supply. You're exactly right. It does not give an incentive for utilities who plan ahead. Mm-hmm. So as a result, we ended up filing a lawsuit against the state, against the board, because we felt that those regulations did not reflect an optimal solution. If I can jump ahead to last week, the state board has updated their regulations, and those regulations now reflect exactly what we asked for. So we said we want our supply to be recognized, and now with the new regulations, they've actually recognized that, and I know we'll get into that into a little more detail. But last year we spent a lot of money on encouraging conservation, even though we thought we had enough supply. We want to be good citizens, a good utility, and we went ahead. We spent more than $5 million on turf replacement. We continued to promote efficient use of water, including the use of Toro's efficient sprinklers. We love the partnership that we've had with you for many years. There's been a lot of innovative ideas that have come out of Toro. I think the partnership we have here is great. But we did a lot in the drought, and we reduced our use by 22%. So we've actually got a lot of conservation, and I think for the long-term sustainability of the region and the city of Riverside, that is what we should be doing. The only issue I may have with this is we were asked to do this in a 1-year period, when I think we should have done it over a longer period. As a result, our ratepayers have been, I would say, harmed because they paid twice. They paid once to build a resilient system, and now they're paying again because our revenues have gone down dramatically.
I think that's one of the things that, being in business, I understand, but as a consumer, it's not as readily understandable that utilities, water utilities, have a significant part of their expenses are fixed costs. And these fixed costs do not go away because people use 22% less water. So not being able to manage those fixed costs down in the short term, but seeing your revenues go down, it's got to be a challenge.
It is, you hit the nail on the head. That is a fundamental issue that utilities across the country are facing. And if I may extend it, it's not just water utilities, it's electric utilities. Our revenue model was made for the last century. We need to update the revenue model for the current century. And so when our residents turn their faucet on and they see the water flowing through, we need to realize, and we need to do a much better job of educating our customers on that. The cost of that water is just a small fraction of everything we need to be putting in place. It's the laterals, it's the neighborhood distribution lines, it's the main transmission lines, it's the booster stations, it's the reservoirs, the treatment plants, it's the pumping facilities, it's all of that.
And the power.
And the power.
Well, the money that was spent by the ratepayers, for example, and now that it's been recognized from the state of what Riverside Public Utilities has done, can the public go back and claim any monetary expenditures for doing that when they actually helped comply and thought ahead and planned, and or they're just stuck? Simple as that.
In their dreams.
Yeah, I think just the way this works is we were basically asking for relief from the regulations, that the regulations be done properly.
Right.
Well, it's the wheels of justice turn slowly.
Right.
And unfortunately, our ratepayers have been harmed.
Right, they get caught in the middle.
That's right.
So I know Riverside Public Utilities has done a phenomenal job on how they market and promote education for water. You have other rebate programs throughout the city. You also are part of MET, so you have the, aside from the free sprinkler nozzle program, which you guys launched and developed, there's also for smart controllers and soil moisture sensors and things like that. And what I find in with your representatives that I work with in the field a lot, I'll tell you, they have a great reputation because people now like to listen to them. They now understand. When they first started, everybody heard that word conserve, and they don't like that word conserve. It sounds like the government's coming in and, crunching you that you got to do this. But when you turned around the word in marketing, when you use the word, we use water more efficiently. It was a softer, kindler, gentler, I guess is a good word, but it seemed to take hold, and a lot of stakeholders and residents and businesses have done a phenomenal job. There's local places, if I can mention one, Paradise Landscape and Landscaping. They do both design work. I'm not giving them a plug. I'm just saying that's one of the companies here.
And they're in Riverside.
Right.
So.
Ian Davidson, who's a designer. I mean, good people are teaching people here in Riverside how to save water and use it more efficiently. And people are really, once they understand that, then it's simple to them. Before, when they just hear the word conserve, it's like, oh, I can't do this, and I can't do this, and I can't flush my toilet all day, and things like that. People don't like that. And Riverside has done a great job on promoting water efficiency, and I got to applaud you for that.
And I got to say, a year ago, let's say in April, when the governor announced a 25% reduction target for the whole state of California, did you really think that the state could respond in the magnitude that it has responded? Because personally, I thought, hey, that's just not reachable. 10%, maybe 15%, but I think we ended up at close to 24% on a statewide basis, which is quite remarkable.
It's astonishing. I did not expect us to reach that. I think it really tells you a lot about Californians, that they're willing to step up and respond to a crisis. And I think they did a great job. And Rob, you were talking about efficient, basically, let's not talk about conservation. It's not about deprivation.
Right.
Yes.
It's about efficient use. Let's not waste. So, one of the things I like to think about, lawns are not bad. It's just, if you have a lawn, let's water it efficiently. Let's get the right kind of lawn for the right region.
Right.
Yeah.
You can have a lawn that's beautiful. You can water it twice a week, maybe thrice a week. So you don't have to water it 5 times a week. You don't have to use too much water. And those are the things we're going to continue to educate our customers on. One of the things that we did last year, we thought, there was this line saying, brown is the new green.
Yeah.
That's trying to sell someone something that's really. So we came up with this slogan saying, less water, more color. And let's make it positive, because you can really have an amazing landscape, a very colorful landscape, a very lush landscape, without using too much water.
Right.
So it's a new marketing campaign that we started last year. We have updated our landscape ordinance to reflect that, and we're going to be investing a lot more money in transforming, if I may say so, the landscape of Riverside.
Right. Well, you promote also with Western Municipal Water, which we are a sponsor of also, for the green gardens where people transform their landscape, and they have winners every single year. And that's a great program. And seeing some of the people come in with the pictures, it's interesting. I had a friend. He's retired. He was the horticulturist for Palm Desert named Spencer Knight. I don't know if you ever met him or not. Smart guy. I always thought, coming from the East Coast, cactus, desert, that's what you're going to have in your yard once we get to this thing. He showed me a book on vegetation that you could plant here in California that was just unbelievably gorgeous and beautiful. But people didn't know about that. They just think it's going to be little tiny weed-looking things. And
that's why going to some of these nurseries that now have come up to speed on drought-tolerant, California-friendly planting material, they know the right way to water it, they know the frequency. So if we want to continue the path of becoming more efficient using water wisely, I think it's reaching out and asking for help. Because one of the things I think that contributed to the significant water savings in the state of California, specifically here in the Inland Empire, was the attitude that the agencies took. It wasn't, oh, I caught you with runoff, or I caught you watering on a day you're not supposed to water. It was always from the perspective of, if you want to reduce your water waste, let us help you. And I think that attitude, which I've seen duplicated throughout the state by many, many agencies, even though you all didn't get on a conference call and agree to that, I think was instrumental on doing that, on getting the accomplishment done.
Let me give a short story. So when the governor had the order, we went to our city council, and we had to reduce our use by 28%. So we talked about 3-day-a-week watering. And we were going to have this system of, those with even-numbered homes could water on these days, odd-number homes on these days. Well, the city council said, no, let's do it differently. We think the city of Riverside, our customers, know what they need to do. You don't have to be a monitor. Let's just tell them 3 days. You pick the 3 days. I have to say, I didn't think it would work. I'm glad I was wrong.
That also balanced your water delivery through your pipe, so you didn't have any pressure problems too.
That's right. Just diversified it completely.
Well, and it also makes the homeowner part of the solution. They have some decision-making power in that. Well, in terms of what RPU is doing, we've heard something about Utility 2.0. Can you share with us what that's about?
Sure. Utility 2.0 is the name we are giving for a 10-year strategic plan for building our utility for the future. As you know, this is both the electric and water side. There have been trends that have basically transformed our business. On the electric side, it's renewable power, solar, wind, energy storage. No longer do we have a system where power is generated hundreds of miles away and gets brought in to a resident. This system is changing where our residents and businesses are also going to generate power. They're no longer going to be only consumers. They will be what we call prosumers. They're actually going to be generating power and putting it back on the grid. When you look at the expectations of the new generation, they want service and information in a way that is very different than what we're used to delivering. They're used to service delivery. They're the Amazon generation. So when they want instantaneous information. So how do we communicate to our customers if there's a leak on their pipes? Today, it's after they get a bill. They know that their bill is high, and then we'll send someone out. So there's technology that allows us to actually provide them early warnings. And our infrastructure is really old. Most of the infrastructure in Riverside was built after World War II, the couple of decades after World War II. Well, all that infrastructure is now 60 years old now. So it's time to be replaced. And so we've got to get into an accelerated replacement program, and that's what Utility 2.0 is. It's replacing hundreds of miles of pipeline. It's replacing our power poles. When you think about the power poles that we have our electric equipment on, many of them have outlived their lives, and we haven't replaced them at the rate that's necessary for us to have a stable and reliable system. So it's all about infrastructure on the water side and the electric side. It's making sure we continue to have resilient supply. There's some very interesting projects we are investing in, for example, recycled water. We are going to build a recycled water project coming down Jackson Street. It's the first major project on recycled water that we've done. We're going to, in partnership with Western Municipal Water District and Valley Water District, participate in the Rubber Dam project, where we're going to capture stormwater runoff from the Santa Ana River. And then, of course, what we were talking about earlier, it's efficient water use. That's going to be about 1/3 of our future needs is going to come from efficient water use.
I think the public is getting used to using water more efficiently. They understand it. Now they understand it. I don't think a year ago they did.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of the dramatic nature of the fourth year of the drought in 2015 was that it became an urgency, and there was really concerted communication effort across the whole state. Public advertising, a lot of communication on the part of proactive utilities like RPU. So yeah, I think it's done a good job of educating people. Hey, maybe I should be thinking about where does my water come from and how much energy and effort goes into delivering it here, because really for so many years the RPUs of the world, of California anyway, spoiled its customers. Right. We just open the tap, it's always there, it's clean, it's
well, Mike and I talked to people from Orange County Water, and they talked about their recycling. And we talked to Kevin Upadier from Metropolitan, and all of these things are good, and we need to keep going forward with that. And I'm glad the water agencies throughout California are getting smarter in what they're doing. I joke with Mike when I read about Shasta and some other Oroville when the water level gets a little too high where they have to keep a minimum amount, and then they open the floodgates and just let hundreds of thousands of gallons of water go down.
Thousands of acres.
Yeah. So it's beyond me that why can't they build a pipeline to do something with that? Because down here in Southern California, 90% of the water goes to the ocean, and it's a shame. I know Riverside
after a rain, right?
After rain.
So much of it after rain.
And I see, I'd love to talk to politicians, and we're going to have Richard Roth on, and he's a great guy. In fact, just so everybody knows, we don't show favoritism, but he used to be our company lawyer. but he's a good guy. But I try to understand where's the priorities that the state has. I mean, what's more important? I'm not here to politicize what I believe in, but I got to think water's got to be like the number in the top 3 things of what we got to take care of. Otherwise, we're not going to survive. Mike and I have been blessed enough that we met people from the state of Israel and how they turned their desert into total green and what they've done. But it was a long journey. It wasn't something they did in 1 year or 5 years or 10 years. It was, 40, 50 years, and so we're almost 68 years. But we need to do that. We need to do this. I don't understand why we have tons of floods back east and in Texas, and all that water is away. Why can't we build a pipeline?
Well, that gets back to what you talked about, making sure that the awareness is high with our customers. Unfortunately, in California, our attention span is pretty small. So last year, the Public Policy Institute, they do surveys every quarter about what the most important issues are for Californians. And you could see as the drought started, continued, I should say, in 2013, 14, 15. In 2015, it was the #1 issue for Californians. The last survey that was done about a month ago, it's dropped. It's no longer the #1 issue. So going back to Utility 2.0, so it may be off the public's radar because something else has come up. But in the water business, the water professionals, we really need to keep our eye on the ball for the next 10, 20, and 30 years. And that's what Utility 2.0 is about. It's keeping our eye on the ball so that future generations get the same kind of reliability and resiliency that past generations have had.
And even with increased population, because that's one of the things that you have to face. Now, as a consumer in Riverside, I think this sounds like a great strategic plan, great forward thinking. How might a consumer in Riverside see that progression manifest itself on the water bill? Is that something that they would take notice of?
Yeah, so unfortunately, and this is how we started our conversation, this drought, even though we had sufficient supply, because we had to follow the regulations that we didn't agree with, and we filed a lawsuit over, but we still have to follow those regulations. Those have decimated our revenues. And so, like we observed earlier, most of our costs are fixed. Mm-hmm. So even if you use less water, you still have to pay for the pipes, the treatment. So there is some reduction in cost when we don't have to pump as much, we don't have to use as much chemicals to treat our water, but the majority of our costs, close to 90% on the water side, is fixed. So first we have to recover from that. And then we have to figure out a way to pay for all these infrastructure improvements. We are looking at proposing to the City Council that in maybe 3 years from now, we move to budget-based rates. And budget-based rates are a way of actually having a personalized rate for every single resident. So depending on the size of your property, you will have an allocation of water. So it's not a one-size-fits-all, it's one size for you.
Right.
And so over the next few months, we will be going to the council, and then I'll be in front of dozens of community groups talking about Utility 2.0, what we're going to build, why we need it, what's in it for the customer, what benefits can they see, and what are the costs. So all that will be provided.
I think understanding what a water budget is, I think that's a great step in the absolute right direction, because it gives you the ability to charge more to those that excessively use more than what a scientific budget based on climate, square footage, and plant material. That's a budget that's calculable, just like if I have income, I get a paycheck every 2 weeks or once a month, then I know how much I can spend, right? Same thing with the water budget for the customers. They're going to have a reliable supply at a fair price, but if I go over that because I am not paying attention to the maintenance of my sprinkler system, or I'm not paying attention to fixing my toilet leaking 24/7, I'm going to take notice very quickly, because that bill is going to rise very quickly because those tiered rates
That's correct.
go up. So I think that's personally, I like that approach.
And I think showing people the real value of water, the real cost of water, is important so they understand that.
That's correct. So the two principles are we'll personalize rates for everyone. And the second principle is it reflects what we talked about. Since the majority of our costs are fixed, more of the bill will have a fixed cost to it. So we won't have these wide variations in our revenue. Mm-hmm. And that's going to take a lot of education, but we're committed to doing that.
So here's just one quick thing, because I've always thought this made sense, and I don't know if it's ever been done, but as a consumer, I would love to be able to continue paying my bill the way I have, maybe for 6 months, but then see if I was on the budget, here's what my bill would be, so that I can kind of see what the future might look like. Now that's more difficult to actually do than say, but as a consumer, that's what I would like.
Can consumers now go to a website and see what their water usage is on a daily basis or a weekly basis, or?
Well, actually, not right now, but if we have Utility 2.0 implemented, in a few years they will be able to get that data. Because what we need for that is to put sensing devices at the point at which the consumers are taking water and provide that data to them. And right now, we don't have that. We have, basically, these are old-style analog meters.
Right.
And we need a digital meter, and we need a way of getting that data back to the customer. And so we need the communication network so that it can be presented to them on their mobile device. So they don't even have to be at home or even in Riverside. They could be on vacation, and they'll know, for example, if there's water use when they're not at home.
Would they get an alarm maybe? I mean,
yes, and that's what data analytics is about. So the future of our business is sense the data, analyze, and then control. So from an operations side, we'd be able to control our facilities better so we can restore outages, whether they're pipe ruptures or electric outages, much faster. From the customer standpoint, they get information that they can use to control their costs. So the more information they have, they can adjust their water use and energy use and keep their costs down.
And yet still maintain the kind of lifestyle and landscape that they want. But now they have data.
That's exactly right. Less water, more color.
So you can keep your 4 swimming pools. And there's some homes that we found out in Beverly Hills that have 8 swimming pools. 8.
Wow.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
So just real quick, what do you see? Say you become the governor. I know you're not running today, but I don't know if you are or not. But where do you see the whole water situation in California? What do you think needs to happen? Because infrastructure definitely needs to be changed.
Well, I actually think the governor is on the right path in looking at the big picture. Climate issues are definitely impacting us. The weather patterns are changing. Our water system was built for a different kind of weather pattern, and our water system was built for a different number of people in California. Our population continues to grow. We have to do something different. So Prop 1A was great. Now the regulations are being developed. We really need to invest that money to make sure that we have a resilient statewide system.
And kind of to underscore your point about climate, think about it. We had one of the strongest El Nino events this past winter, and yet Southern California still received less than historical average amount of precipitation. So in that fight between the drought and El Nino, even though Northern California certainly got over their average historical numbers, we did not. So I think that goes to your point.
That's right. And we really need to look at it as a statewide. There's lots of politics on this, but there's the Bay Delta plan, the Twin Tunnels, etc. And I think it's being looked at, but we definitely need to have more infrastructure built. At the same time, back to this point of using water more efficiently, we should be able to utilize, whether it's geospatial imagery, the way in which we can be more efficient with different kinds of plants, and use technology too to manage our water use.
Right. So if people want to find out more what Riverside Public Utilities can do for them, how do they get in touch with everybody?
Yeah, so they can go to our website and look under Utility 2.0, under the Riverside Public Utilities website, and they'll see our plans there. We're going to continue to update it, so some of the questions that you've asked about what are the financial impacts, that'll get posted as those are developed. We also will, in the years to come, be posting every single project that's been approved under Utility 2.0 will be posted in terms of progress. Where is it in the planning, design, construction, or completed stages? So all that information is being prepared as we speak, and that'll be presented through our website.
I think that's a great approach, that transparency, because I'm much more willing to pay when I know that real
where's it going?
Tangible things are happening. So I think that's a great approach.
So, well, we thank you for your time today, and we appreciate you coming on the Waqter Zone, and hopefully we'll get to maybe get you down on the show again.
Yeah, thank you very much. Enjoyed our time together.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks. Well, you're listening to the Waqter Zone on KCAA 1050 AM, 106.5 FM. We're going to take a little break, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Are you looking for the right place to purchase your landscaping items? Well, come see us at Hydroscape. Hydroscape offers a large selection of irrigation products including Irritrol and Toro, such as their efficient precision nozzles. For 40 years, Hydroscape has been family owned and operated, serving Southern California. With 17 locations, our knowledgeable and experienced staff is equipped to help you with all your irrigation, landscape, and outdoor living projects. Whether you're installing irrigation systems, wanting to maintain a healthy landscape, or simply create a beautiful lit space for outdoor entertaining, Hydroscape is the place to go. Visit our website at hydroscape.com for more information and find helpful articles on our blog, or call our customer service center at 1-800-395-4477.
Are you presently part of the irrigation industry as a worker or business owner? Do you want to learn how you and your staff can boost your knowledge and productivity? Then you should check out Irrigator Technical Training School. Irrigator Tech is the leading source of quality instruction serving all facets of the irrigation industry. Their courses provide a basic, easy-to-understand approach that raises the skill level, competency, and professionalism of landscape and irrigation personnel through practical education and services. Irrigator Tech combines classroom and real-life hands-on training, leading to a well-recognized certification that both customers and employers demand. Irrigator Tech's specialized courses can help you quickly become a certified irrigation auditor or a certified installer, repair, maintenance, or backflow technician. Courses also include certificates in smart water application or becoming a certified tree worker. Most importantly, all certifications are state recognized, and Irrigator Tech offers annual renewal classes to help keep your certification up to date. So whether you work in California, Washington, Oregon, Nevada, or Arizona, there's an Irrigator Tech class near you. For more information on how to jumpstart your career, call Irrigator Tech toll-free 866-614-1755 or visit them on the web at irrigatortech.com. That's toll-free 866-614-1755 and on the web at irrigatortech.com.
Welcome back to the Water Zone Show with Mike and Rob. And you know what time it is, Mike?
I think it might be time for me to turn on my mic.
Turn on your mic.
Time. I think it's. I think that's your job. No, I won't say that. It's time for the DIY guy.
Absolutely. And what is the subject today?
Today is solvent welding.
Glue.
Yep. So you'd be having glue. You go to.
I got to tell you, if it's not weld on, I don't put it on my pipe.
Wow, that's awesome.
That is an. What is that called when you endorsement? If I've ever heard one.
Yeah. When you use a company like Weldon and you use their glue, what you need to do is be able to make sure that you're doing it safely. Make sure you use rubber gloves, that you don't put too close to your face, that you have safety glasses on.
I don't know. It smells really good, though.
Yeah, it does. It does for long periods of time. But, you know, you just want to make sure that...
We don't want anyone to just...
I got to watch the line in case the boss calls it one. Okay. Mike knows it smells good.
You know, but you should, I mean, obviously do it in a wide open area so that you don't have a lot of fumes accumulating.
Yes, so. And if you
all kidding aside,
went too... got deep inside of a huge hole, of course you'd want a respirator or a fan to keep it so that the water ended up and the smell of it would be out of the area. But for all the consumers out there, you want to make sure that you use it and that when you do use it, you respect it and make sure you don't get it on your hands, that you take your time, put the primer on, which etches the pipe, which would be like, soldering a copper pipe. So you want to etch that pipe and scratch it. So then when you put the glue together and hold it, it bonds and welds together like a welding piece.
Should you do both ends, the coupling and the
pipe itself? So you put a little primer on, and then go to the fitting, put a little primer, then put a little bit of glue, push it together. You want to make sure that you have an old shirt, some kind of rag available to wipe it off so it's nice and clean. You don't want glue
nothing
on
from
the
your wife's
sidewalk.
wardrobe.
Yeah, yes, nothing. Yeah, definitely. And you don't want to get it all over the soil, the sidewalk, or leave a mess anywhere. You want to make sure that it's not in reach of any children or anybody around you, that you don't walk away from it and then go to the garage, come back, and that any animals or any, small children walk over to try to do the same thing Dad's doing and then gets that glue all over themselves. But, it's a great process. I just want the professional to make sure that he's ASMAT standard. We just got at Irrigator Tech working a team with Weldon to be able to be teaching those classes. We'll be in Arizona next week.
I didn't know you were going to be talking about Weldon when I said that. Just so you know.
That's just something that that just happened. Weldon is probably one of the largest glue companies out there and most well-known at all the turf distributors.
One thing I think is going to be interesting for our listening audience, seriously, when you go to the store and you see the products, there's a variety of them. So how do you know which one to choose?
Yes, a lot of people like a blue glue. It's very fast. It works real quick. I personally like to use it on the smaller pipe because it does work quick. And you want to make sure that you use the proper can and the proper dauber. You don't want to get a quart can and then use that big fat dauber that's on the end and then shove it into a half-inch piece of pipe and then have it pour all over the sidewalk or get all over the place. Or get a small can and then take that little teeny dauber and then try to do a 4-inch pipe. It won't get around the pipe quick enough.
So you mentioned the blue colored glue, for the smaller pipes. So would that be 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch? Would you include 1 inch?
Yeah, I feel comfortable myself when we're doing training telling people to use the blue glue for 2-inch and below. Use a medium to heavy gray. The larger the fitting, and the time that you want it to set up, you use a gray glue. So if you've got a 3-inch, 4-inch, 6-inch fitting, you want to be able to have some time to be able to push it in, twist it when you're putting it in so it evens out the glue all the way around. So don't just push it in. You want to twist it in and get it on there. So you want to make sure you put enough primer without slopping it all over the place, and then make sure that when you put the glue on, you get a nice bead all the way completely around, and then when you put it in, you kind of give it a twist so it evens the glue completely around.
I don't know where I heard this, or I thought someone that was knowledgeable told me this, but to insert, and let's just say we're dealing with 1-inch pipe and we've got the blue colored glue. So as I insert the pipe, I go straight in and then I turn it 90 degrees. But it sounded like maybe what I should do is I should give it a
You should be twisting as you're turning.
As you insert.
Yeah, so it kind of evens out the glue in case you had a little dry pocket underneath the pipe that you didn't catch or see underneath there. That would even out the glue all the way around. And it's good to always put a slight bevel on the end of a Schedule 40, with a little blade or a little reamer, etch that, because now it becomes a little bit more like a V instead of a flat spot on that Schedule 80 pipe or the Schedule 40, and then it smoothly goes in and kind of pushes it to the outside of the pipe, and that twisting makes it work out real good. When you're doing a large piece of pipe, you got to really file it down and make it smooth so it slides right in.
You got to make sure it's dry. A lot of people have broken pipes and they still have water in it. They got to get that dry.
Yep.
And then the recommended time before you turn the water on to check it.
Yeah, I mean, it can be from an hour to an hour and a half. I mean, if it's a lateral line and there's no pressure and there's no water in the line, it's very easy. A lot of people, a little trick is to make sure that you take a little bread, wrap it around, and then make a little ball if it just keeps on coming out and shove it in, because it will dissolve, and that just gives you enough time to push it on and twist it without water being on the pipe or in the fitting.
So again, as a homeowner, I'm going to be dealing typically with 3/4 inch, 1-inch pipe. Should I use primer when I use that smaller size pipe, or can I get away?
A lot of people feel that there's primer in the blue of the pipe, but it's not. It's really a solvent cement that is around, but we want to etch it so those little scratches, and it softens and penetrates into that pipe and softens it.
So for good long-term reliability, I mean, it may work today, next month, and a year from now, but somewhere down the road, it could come apart.
It could come apart. And, and these standards are to plumbing codes. Plumbers are pretty advanced on making sure, because they're running pipes that are inside the walls. As landscapers, we make a little mistake and it drips a little bit. It's on the grass. You won't notice it. But when it's in the wall, someone's getting some mold or something else is going to happen.
You know a little bit about leaks in walls,
and
don't
mold
you,
out
Rob?
there.
Ask my wife.
That's right.
We got a whole house full of, we did have a whole house full of water. by accident.
Yeah.
But
So make sure that, you respect it, that you remember when you purchase it at any wholesaler or any retailer that you don't leave the can around. It's always nice when you have it is to put a little pipe dope on it or a little Teflon tape and seal it up so it doesn't get that vapor out.
Well, my wife says I'm the little dope who goes out there and does the work in the backyard. So anyway, everybody have a great week. We'll be back next week for the Water Zone. Have some great guests coming, and have a great weekend. And keep dry your landscape wet.
You're listening to KCAA, Loma Linda, California. The best station in the nation.
KCAA.
Hey, Bonnie, your ride is looking sweet, and that bumping sound.
Yeah, Commish, thanks for your referral to Alan Ed's Auto Sound and their expert installations with custom sound systems.
That's right, Commish. Alan Ed's has a wide variety of mobile electronics and accessories from car stereos to vehicle security, including complete interior and exterior upgrades, as well as a full line of restyling options for your car, truck, boat, or off-road vehicle. Alan Ed serves the Inland Empire and San Diego and Los Angeles counties. You can also catch Alan Ed's Auto Sound at upcoming events: Extreme Auto Fest, Hot Import Nights, OC Block Party, the Dub Show, the Lowrider Super Show, SEMA in Vegas, and also the LA Auto Show. Stop by the Alan Ed's Auto Sound booth and see our friend Alden